Looking for the perfect gift for the perfect guy this Valentine's Day? Perfect gift. Well, then the perfect jean knows just what you need to gift your man. They are mind readers. From jeans or shorts that are tailored to not crush your man's junk. Ow, that hurts. To shirts that use the same stretch and quality as their jeans to make your man look good this Valentine's Day. Ill-fitting clothes make you look ugly and unworthy of love. Plus, the best Valentine's Day is using promo code BIDDLE20 at theperfectjean.nyc for 20% off your first order. That's right, BIDDLE20 gets you 20% off all their items. Inclusive deals are the best. So this Valentine's Day, fuck those boring khakis and get your man the perfect gift from the perfect jean. And don't forget to use code BIDDLE20 for 20% off your order. Khakis are the worst.
It's a new year, and that means we're trying to get our diets, finances, and goals in line. Know what else needs aligning in the new year? Your spine. Bueno, thanks to our friends at Snapcrack, you could definitely achieve that goal in the new year. Snapcrack offers hassle-free chiropractic adjustments for just $29 a visit. No hidden fees, no appointments needed. Just walk in and experience their 3-step process of the crack, the drop, and the click. They even offer monthly $49 memberships that include adjustments and a variety of Snap Boost vitamin therapy injections, which, como están las cosas hoy en día, we can all get a little bit more vitamins, right? Bueno, así que visit to snapcrack.com today and find the location nearest you, which now includes a location in Hialeah. So you know how that's going to be, la ciudad que progresa. And you know how much I love Hialeah. Then just stop by. You'll be in and out in no time. After all, when you feel better, you do better. Hey everyone, this is DJ.
And this is Ish.
And this is Season 5 of Pero Let Me Tell You.
Oh shit, we're 10 episodes away from 200.
Yes, we are, sir.
I guess that should mean something, but you know. Now who knows?
This is true. I mean, anyway, welcome to episode 190.
You got me there, as you know, I used to say in the first several episodes. Are we recording?
Yes,
welcome to episode 190, everyone. Welcome. And how is everybody this week?
Well,
we made it through another week.
Well, I think everyone's doing well compared to you.
So we're not gonna really stress on it, but you know, you may hear us a little bit differently today. Right. And that is because Ish and I are recording in each other's respective homes because I got the coronavirus.
Yes, and in true Darian fashion, you got the coronavirus the day after you got the booster shot.
Well, I tested positive. The day after I got the booster shot. So I probably had it when I got the booster shot. And they tell you that you shouldn't have it when you do. But here we are. But you know what? And, you know, like everybody, I had my days where I felt like I got hit by a truck. And then, like, yesterday, I had, like, a headache. And you know, and you know, you feel a little bit better each day. Look, I have had moments where I've felt really, really bad. I even had a fever of 102. But you know what? Honestly,
wow,
at this point,
had like a real fever,
No, I had like a real fever, like shivers and everything. Oh, wait. This is evidence of how bad my fever was. I was wearing a hoodie, socks, and turned off the air.
Okay, for those of you, which is most of you who have never been to Darian's house. Imagine a tundra inside of a refrigerator inside of an igloo. Plus 10.
Yes, because I am that person that puts the air at like 50. Like, when people come to my house, they're like, oh shit, I forgot my sweater.
Yeah, seriously. It's like, we live in Miami. No, I'm going to go visit Darian.
Because I don't like it cold. I like it freezing cold.
No. There's cold and then there's whatever happens at your house.
Right. So that is the best gauge to tell you how bad I felt. That I had the air turned off. I put it at like 80.
At 80?
Yeah, no, I didn't want the air to turn on. You just put it at a high temperature and it won't turn on, right? That is how bad like I felt, especially when my fever was like peaking. But look, at this point in time, obviously I'm vaxxed. I got boosted. I still wear my mask most places that I go to.
I do when
and well, but it's the same with you. I do wear the mask most places that I go to. It's very, very rare for me not to wear the mask. But at this point in time, everybody's gonna get it.
Yeah.
I had even sort of, not that it's a joking matter, but I sort of even joked with you. I'm like, I'm just waiting to get it because now in the holidays, everybody around me got it. And everybody around me were people that were vaccinated and people that took precautions. So, that's all cool. But here we are. So,
yeah. Well, again,
here we are in episode 190.
What was that?
Here we are in episode 190.
190, 190. Vacunado y con COVID.
Although, I have to say, and this is very, very reflective of like the dynamic of you and I get coronavirus, God knows from where. You got it on a cruise, having fun. This is very reflective of our personalities. You went out with a bang.
That's true. And it was at the end of 2021.
Right. Yeah, you went out with a bang, partying on a cruise in the Caribbean. No, I just got it on a random, garden variety day.
You probably went to like Publix.
Yes. Yes. So, whatever. So, yeah, here we are. So, all things considered, I'm fine. Como todo, you have your days that you feel like awful, like I can't get out of bed. And then, you progress a little bit by there. But look, I think that none of us that especially have this Omicron variant that is not as strong, and especially if we're vaccinated, we can't complain, even if it's, several days, even a week of being feverish, of feeling bad. We can't complain because those people that got it early on and those people that got the Delta variant that really were messed up, the people who got it without it, because there weren't any vaccines or anything like that, those were like the people who really suffered through this. So I'm not going to sit here and complain and woe is me. It is what it is.
It could be worse.
It could be worse.
Yeah,
so,
Nino, he's good.
He's good. So, in news...
Well, wait, are you saying you are not news?
Well, no, because, whatever. So in topical, if you will. So there's something I wanted to, bring up that is very up our alley, and as I was watching this show, I kept thinking about this. So, maybe many of our listeners watch Euphoria, and I started watching Euphoria this week. I have time in my hands.
This is true.
Oh, okay, so put your feelings of Zendaya aside. So Ish is not a fan of Zendaya.
But I
why
will
is
say
that you don't care for Zendaya?
because she's just average. Like I don't get the thing. My thing with Zendaya is, as it is with most celebrities, where it's just like I think they're okay, but then for some reason la cogen con la persona. And
Right, but that's not her fault.
I didn't say it was her fault, but it still makes me go. Ugh.
Right, because there is a media adoration of her, which I don't think is a bad thing, but that's not her fault.
But I think but I just think she's an average actress. Like I've yet to be.
No, I prior to Euphoria, I had only seen her in Casey Undercover. And let's face it, and nothing against Zendaya, I used to watch Casey Undercover for Dwayne Wade and Whitley.
And Whitley, yeah, that's right.
And Whitley, because from a different world, they were on the show as well. She was cute in that show, but obviously it was a teen role.
It was a Disney
for Nickelodeon. It was Nickelodeon. Casey Undercover.
No, it was Disney.
No, it was Nickelodeon.
It was Disney.
I'm pretty sure it was Nickelodeon.
As you look it up, and I will be proven right.
It was Disney. It was Disney. Why did you say Disney?
Because I told you Disney.
I told you it was Disney. You were saying Nickelodeon.
Lies. See, that's because you have the COVID. Your fever of 102 te tiene mal.
Anyway, okay. She is amazing in Euphoria. She is really good in Euphoria, and I think her, what did she get? Win a Golden Globe?
An Emmy.
An Emmy, I think is very well deserved because this is not a Zendaya role. Mm-hmm. She is not pretty and clean and, glamorous.
Well,
and
Jose watches the show, so I've seen it.
That is so funny because as I watch that show, I'm like, this is a total show Jose would watch.
And he does.
It is very dark and very grit. Like, I don't know if you've seen episodes of it.
Yeah, I've seen like 2 episodes.
I think she's actually Sarah Gomez in the show. But that's not even what I wanted to talk about the show. So for those of you who don't know, so Euphoria is a show on, I was going to say VH1.
That would be great if now VH1 was just doing like top shelf critically acclaimed things as opposed to reality TV.
Right. It's on HBO and it's about kids in high school. All these kids are under 18, kids in high school, and obviously what they go through in high school, but this is not my so-called life.
This isn't real high school.
These kids are like on drugs. They're doing like porn. They are doing a lot. And a lot. And there's penises in there's frontal in every single episode, at least every single episode that I've seen, that after a while sort of makes you uncomfortable because it's like, why are they showing this much nudity? But anyway, because it's not that I'm a prude or whatever, but sometimes when there's excessive nudity, I'm like, is this just amount of nudity for shock value, or is it indicative and needed for the plot? Right. And whatever. But anyway, the point I wanted to make and why I bring this show up is, so in the show, like, these kids go to these parties and they sleep over their friend's house, and I kept thinking, Euphoria, the plot line in Euphoria would not happen with Latin parents. It just wouldn't. Porque mira, for example, Zendaya's character, Rue, hey, I'm going to go spend the night at so-and-so's house. Okay, honey, have a good time. I'm like, what? Like,
also, isn't she like a recovering addict? So
she is.
They are very lax with her.
Yes. Okay, honey, have a good time. I'm like, what? Like, what? Or the other one. I just started the show, so I don't know everybody's characters' names yet. That her daughter, who, again, these kids are all under 17. That her daughter, goes away for the weekend with her 22-year-old boyfriend, and the girl's like 17. The boyfriend comes to pick her up at the house in the car, and they go away for the weekend. And the mom's like, bye. I'm like, what? I'm like, that would not happen with Latin parents. And like the high school parties these all people went to, I'm like, what high school is this at? Because in all the parties that we went to in high school, and we went to a lot of parties.
We did go to a lot of parties.
We went to a lot of parties, and we went from 9th grade all the way to senior year. And in senior year, we did the whole senior year party. There was always parents in the house. And it would be the whole thing. El party es en la terraza, y los padres están adentro de la casa.
Viendo televisor, yeah.
Right. Viendo televisor, the parents are inside the house, and the kids can party in the backyard, in la terraza, around the pool. Right? I'm like, what type of parties? Because we went to a lot of parties, and that those shenanigans did not happen, No. And we went to public school.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh well, we
know
that
private schools are worse.
It's even worse. It's even worse. Yeah. But yeah, that's what I keep thinking. I'm like, okay, so do the parents in this show ever like step up and say like, no, you're not going out? Like this other girl is running like a total like X-Tube, what is it? Like an OnlyFans, like Pornhub thing in her house, and like her parents haven't noticed, and like that specific character, like one day she just completely started dressing like really like out there and provocative with cleavage and all that, and her mom just saw her. Her mom didn't say anything, and I'm like, pero qué? Like, what? You know what that reminded me of? I don't mind sharing this with our listeners. Do you remember, because, obviously since you and I have been friends since we were 10 years old, there's history. Do you remember that time? I was 20 years old. I was 20. That I sort of went on a date with someone, and I didn't tell my parents. But it was kind of like a long date, like, I don't know. the date was like from, I don't know, like 2 in the afternoon to like 9 o'clock at night.
Which,
like
9 o'clock is early.
Yes, I was home by 9 o'clock.
Right.
But it was one of those things that I was gone the whole day.
Right.
And my parents called all of you guys. Where was I? What was I doing? You know, blah, blah, blah. That why didn't, and you guys didn't even know.
I remember the story, but I don't remember them calling. Like, I'm sure they did, but I don't. I remember the story, but
you remember the story? Yeah. They called everybody. And when I got home, and I was 20 years old, when I got home, where were you? What were you doing? And it was one of these things. I did go out with someone, and I didn't even tell you guys. But again, I was gone from like 2 to 9.
Yeah, these were like okay hours. It's not like you were gone. You were gone the right 2 to 9, 2 p.m. to 9 p.m.
Right, it wasn't right. Instead, I left from 2 a.m. to 9 a.m. Right, and I was 20 years old, and my parents and I was like afraid. I was like, oh my god, when I get home. See, my parents and your parents too.
Yeah.
Like, I remember my parents, us being full-blown adults, and my parents like didn't want me to sleep over at your house or like whatever. Yeah, like whatever. And I feel like no. And these people are like,
they're like 14, and you know.
I'm going to so and so's for the night. Okay, bye. Like, but what?
Tú no sabes quién está en esa casa.
So that is what everybody's like talking about, like the drug use. And like the sex,
the unrealistic wardrobe.
I'm like, no. If Euphoria was set in Miami, in Westchester,
it would be Kendall, a very short show.
Fuera Euphoria. Euphoria. Euphoria, que Euphoria. Tú no vas a ir a casa de nadie.
Euphoria en casa.
Tú no vas a ir a casa de nadie. And I'm like, these parents don't ask any questions. It's like, go.
Yeah, that's what I can't watch that show. Like, Zendaya aside, it's just, I'm so tired of all these, shows about teenagers where it's like, look how gritty it is. Look how edgy it is. And it's like, no, it's not. You're just showing sexy underage, quote unquote underage people, because I'm sure they're all of age on the actors themselves, doing naughty quote unquote things, and you think it's
so I like the show
because they're edgy. Like, and I hate that word edgy because that word has become so overused for everything. It's like right up there with iconic.
Right. Well, look, I think it's edgy, if not for any other reason, for the way it's shot. It's shot in a very artistic way. It's not your regular. I mean, if you've seen a few episodes, I'm sure you've noticed. It's not your regular multicam show or whatever you want to call it. It's shot in a very like artistic and cinematic way. So if you want to use the word edgy, I would say for that reason. I don't think the point of the show is to make a real life depiction of kids in high school. I'm sure there's kids in high school that have gone through what this show goes to, but the debauchery that occurs in this show is like, okay, I was in high school like everybody else, and we weren't the most popular kids in school, but we weren't like little saints that we weren't hermits either.
No, we were a little nerdy, in the grand scheme.
Yeah, but we weren't like completely out of it, right? And like I could confidently tell you that those type of things did not happen in high school parties, at least in our time. And we went to high school in the 90s.
Or at least not with the degree of quote unquote frequency that this show has it happen.
Yes, because it's like everybody's like really fucked up. Like everybody, and it's like, wow. The show is very intense. I think the show is great. And I understand why it's critically acclaimed. The show, I think, is very intense, and it's a hard show to binge watch because it's very heavy. And like after watching 2 episodes, for example, it's like, oh, I need a break. I need to go watch Britain's the British Bake Off,
something light and airy.
Yes. The British Bake Off just always makes you feel good.
It does.
It doesn't matter what's going on in your life. You just watch a couple of episodes of the Great British Bake Off, and I think I'll watch it now when I'm done.
When we're done here, you got time.
I want to go watch the Great British Bake Off. So yes.
Yeah. So Euphoria. So
Before we go into any other topics, I do want to bring something up that I wanted to bring up at the top of the show, but completely forgot. So I'm just going to shoehorn it in here. So we know, listeners, we know that you love when we, when Darian and I just talk and talk and talk for hours. But we know that you also enjoy when we have guests. So we're going to try something a little different this season. We are going to have our interviews as bonus episodes. So we've got our first one coming up this week with Gracie Mercedes from Grand Crew on NBC. And so that's something we're going to tinker with this year to, just give you a little bit more content, because we don't want to cut ourselves off, which, obviously we don't want these episodes to be like 4 hours long. We're not Joe Rogan for many reasons. But
yes, not a good week to be Joe Rogan.
Not a good week to be Joe Rogan.
I didn't want to invest in that stock.
No. But, we also know that y'all enjoy the celebrity interviews, and even those, really, a lot of times the end product you would hear was edited down, because as many a guest has said to us, we only ask for 20 minutes, but it never goes 20 minutes. So this way, you get the best of both worlds. It's like Hannah Montana.
Yeah, because it's something that from the beginning, especially when we started getting a lot of interviews, we've always struggled with. When we have, especially, not only celebrity interviews, but just
interviews in
people
general.
There's people that naturally that we really click with, and our interview goes on easily for 45, 50 minutes. And a lot of times when we have that content, as I said, he has to edit it down, because then our part of the episode, our segments, we either have to make them like 15 minutes and then the interview, or like we make them long, we make them the usual time, but then the episode ends up being an hour and a half. So I think this is a good problem to have.
Exactly. Yeah. We have too much content.
And you guys, our listeners, our wonderful, wonderful listeners, you have made it very clear to us throughout the years at this point that you enjoy the banter between Ish and I. So we don't want to. It's like we're always playing like juggling. Like, do we make our segment shorter and make the interview, or like do we make the interview shorter? So we're gonna try this out for a bit, and if it doesn't work, we'll go back to the regular.
Yeah. Instead of sacrificing content, we're just gonna give you more of it.
Yes. So we're starting. Well, today's Pero Friday.
Yes.
So it will be Wednesday,
Correct.
the next Wednesday.
Correct.
So next Wednesday we'll have the celebrity interview, and then the following Friday we have a regular episode.
Right. And our interviews will be, again, depending on how many we've got, but it's about we're looking to do maybe 2 a month, give or take.
Right.
So we'll try to keep that. Also, same day as the episode drops, February 16th is trivia night at Beat Culture. Hope to see those of you there who are here in Miami.
Yes. So anyway, hopefully I can make it.
That's right. Yes. Well, I hope you can at least join me at Beat Culture.
Right.
If nothing else.
Otherwise, it'd be a one-man trivia night, which you have done before. So anyway, okay. So I wanted to mention something. This week were the Oscar nominations. Was anybody excited?
I was not. I feel like I haven't seen anything.
So the reason I'm bringing up the Oscar nominations, otherwise I would have not brought it up, is that not surprisingly, Encanto got nominated for Best Motion Picture
And Best Song.
Best Animated Picture. Excuse me. Right, but the song that got nominated was not "We Don't Talk About Bruno." It was another song.
Oruguitas.
Yes. So "We Don't Talk About Bruno," which has broken every streaming record there is, was not nominated. So, do you know why it happened?
I think it has something. I read an article about this today. It kind of comes down to Disney always wanting to hedge their bets with some like a ballad type style,
right?
Because it tends to be better with the.
So what happened was that the Oscar cutoff happened. I think
Bruno hadn't
come out yet. Bruno hadn't taken off, so they placed their bets on that song "Dos Oruguitas." Oruguitas, which translates to two caterpillars. And And obviously, we didn't know about Bruno yet.
We did not. We did not.
But the song is not nominated, which is like, what? And I think I said this last week. The thing about that song, have you finally seen the movie?
I have not. I'm still behind.
So the thing about that song is that when I saw that movie, and I've made it very clear in 198 episodes, I'm not into musicals. I'm not a musical person.
Despite my best efforts.
I see musicals and I'm like, okay, whatever. I have liked certain musicals. I did like Hamilton.
Avenue
and there's been some Avenue Q, and there's been some that I've liked, but I'm not I don't know anything about musicals. It's not my element. But even I, watching Encanto, when I heard that song, We Don't Talk About Bruno, I'm like, oh, this song is really good. Because you can't help it, right? Right. I'm like, this. It's called what, the Showstopper in musicals, the song.
Okay. I haven't heard the song, so I couldn't tell you. But sure, let's go with Showstopper. I'm sure Stephanie will text us.
Right. I knew, my non-musical trained ear knew that this was a great song. Right. So it's just interesting that apparently the executives at Disney didn't think that.
No, but on the plus side, though, this is the first time that Disney has submitted a non-English language song for an Academy Award consideration.
Well, there we go.
So, this song that is in Spanish is up for an Academy Award, and if it wins, then Lin-Manuel Miranda gets to join the EGOT ranks.
So he's only missing an Academy Award?
Yep. Because Hamilton won, I believe Hamilton won an Emmy for something technical, something.
Right, because it was on TV.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I will say this, that maybe I'm wrong, but and I know that they don't know the results, so take it grain of salt. But if Rita Moreno presents the best original song, I'm going to go on record as saying I think that means Lin-Manuel won.
You think so?
Puerto Rican EGOT presenting to a Puerto Rican EGOT.
Yeah.
It's just, it writes itself, the press release.
Right. Yeah. That'd be pretty awesome. Have they said anything if this year's Oscars are going to be a regular Oscars?
I don't know, but I will say I hope it's like last year's. I liked last year's. It felt like the Golden Globes. It was nice.
I told you what my problem with it was, right?
Also, I could watch Regina King walk all day.
But I tell you what my problem with it was, right? That it was in a train station, which was beautiful.
It was gorgeous.
But they did it at sundown, and the lighting, it's son de las 4 de la tarde. That's not flattering. And I'm like, how come they didn't think about this? Because
all I could think of was, what if you're in a train that's arriving at that time or supposed to leave?
So yeah. So no, let's see. I don't know if it's going to be a regular episode or not. But who knows?
Because the Oscars is what, in March? Or did they move it?
No, it's in March.
Oh, okay.
It's in March. So.
Hey everyone, DJ here. One of the best ways to get a little me time is hitting the gym, and it doesn't hurt to feel healthy too, right? But with all the variants of COVID going around, some of us still don't feel comfortable going back, and I hear you. Yo me siento igual. Bueno, the new UFit has the perfect solution with UFit On Demand. Available 24/7, the streaming option features hundreds of classes and fitness programs from fitness experts Les Mills. From beginners to high intensity, UFit On Demand means you don't have any excuses for putting off your fitness journey from the comfort of your own home and on your own time. And did we mention it's less than $5 a month? Yep, under $5 a month, and you can work out as much as you want, and it doesn't get better than that. So visit ufit.com to get started with your on-demand fitness goals. After all, at UFit, you come first.
So yeah, anyway, so what's going on your end?
Well, on my end, I actually wanted to bring something up because this weekend, as we know, is the Super Bowl.
Which I will not be going to any Super Bowl party.
We probably won't be having one as a result. Because if you aren't doing anything and Jose is going to go see Bjork on Sunday, so I can't think of anything less Super Bowl than Bjork. And
I actually disagree because her attack on the
That's
reporter,
true.
that was pretty. That that was iconic.
That was iconic, and it deserves the word iconic.
That was the paparazzi attack Super Bowl.
That was.
Well, she wasn't even paparazzi; she was a reporter.
Oh, I would pay the money. I don't have to have Bjork sing the national anthem. You guys thought Fergie was weird? Have Bjork take a stab at it.
Yeah,
But no. So this Super Bowl, which I found this fascinating, will be the first time that the halftime show has a American Sign Language interpreter performing during the halftime show.
Oh, I hadn't thought about that. I didn't know.
I hadn't either. And when I read that, I mean, obviously, you know, we're not hearing impaired, you and I. So obviously that's not our world. But I was like, really? 2022 is like now is when we're having, you know, ASL performers during the halftime show? It's really, this hasn't been happening all along, or at least for the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years. Like, it's just.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, it's a form of ableism that we're all guilty of because that I always remember. Oh, I'm gonna butcher this. That organization you gave a last soda to regarding shoes.
Tom's. Oh no! Okay, I know.
Yeah.
Yes, I can't remember their name right now, but yes, that they provide like shoes for people who may have prosthetics and.
Yes, I had never thought about that. Right? So, you know, that's a certain form of ableism that, you know, we're all guilty of, that, you know, we don't, because of our own advantage and privilege and ableism, we don't think about certain things that obviously only if you are disabled or whatever specific disability you have, it's a part of your everyday life. So, the whole thing without ASL, I mean, look, I think that that's something that everybody would agree that, I mean, why would that not be something that they have, right?
Have you seen some of these ASL performers like at concerts, specifically like rap concerts?
Yes.
They're phenomenal.
I will tell you the first time I ever saw that at a concert.
Where?
With you.
Really?
Yeah, it was the Spice Girls. But Spice Girls, 1998, the Spice World Tour.
Okay, the Spice World Tour.
Yes. The Spice World Tour, not the Spice World Tour.
Got it.
Yeah. Right. Don't you remember?
Oh, the screen. Because we could see it.
Yes, the screen.
Yes, that's right.
Yes. So I'm actually super excited about this year's halftime show. Did you see that meme I posted the other day?
Yes.
I posted a meme, listeners, that it had like a picture of like Eminem, Mary J. Blige, Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, and it said, these, what is it, Gen Z?
Yeah, Gen Z is about to
These Gen Z kids will know who their parents really are once the beat drops. And I'm like, hell yeah. I'm like, hell yeah. Because,
who's the lineup again? It's Mary J., Eminem,
Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre.
Yeah. I mean, ya con eso.
I think they're having special guests, but those are the four main ones. It's like, say what you will about hip-hop today. You know, a lot of people are all over Travis Scott and A$AP Rocky and all that, and I'm not taking anything away from them.
God bless them.
But you're talking here about, like, the peak of, you know, the
this is a goat farm.
Not the founders of hip hop, because they're not, but Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg took hip hop to another level, and you know, you don't have to be a lover of hip hop to understand that. I'm just getting I just know that Mary J. Blige is gonna sing "Dance for Me," and I just think it's so funny, you know, no holleration in the dancery. Have you ever stopped to look?
She's gonna do her little
at the lyrics of that song.
No, I can't say I have.
She says no holleration in the dancery.
I think that's
why you got to
by
dance
like
for me.
A Cuban.
Holleration in the dancery. No, but she's going to sing that and Real Love. I mean, she has to do Real Love. And she has so many. She's so... Mary J. Blige is so...
Drama.
Normal Drama is actually one of my favorite songs of hers. I don't know if that's going to cut the Super Bowl because, that sounds a little dramatic.
But that's a great opening, though. Think about it. Those chords start and she rises out of the rafters.
You mean her coming out with the Young and the Restless theme?
Yes.
Because that's the loop that song uses.
I mean, yeah, that's think about it. It goes to black.
That's why she says in the song, because I was so young and restless, but that was long ago. I don't want to cry no more. That's so good. I love her. I love her. And I love, my favorite song of hers is actually My Life. But again, those are like really, really depressing songs. But she's one of these people. That's why Mary J. Blige is so critically acclaimed, because she's somebody that, like, her voice just emotes in a way that, like, even the greatest singers in the world can't emote like she does.
Do you think she gets the right amount of love commercially?
Yes and no. Yes and no. I think in the R&B world, she is the queen.
Right.
And in the R&B world and even hip-hop world, yes, she is the queen. And Mary J. It's like the temple of Mary J. Blige. I think mainstream-wise, she doesn't.
Okay, that's fair.
I think mainstream-wise, she doesn't. Because her biggest hits was Dance For Me. That's her biggest hit commercially, like on mainstream radio.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah. I don't
And
know. Because I know
well,
her songs, so I don't stop to think
But
about
while
it.
that song is good, that's not her best song.
No, at all.
It's not. So, but that happens to a lot of people that aren't pop per se, that their biggest hits are the more pop hits, and then, like, their real hits are, the really good songs are not, their best work. But that's the story of music, if
That
you
is the
will.
story
So
of our musical tastes.
yes. So, okay, do you hear what took a big tumble this week?
Bitcoin?
No, Peloton. Bueno, Bitcoin did, but Peloton and Peloton.
I thought this was going a whole different route, but yeah, no. They fired like 2,800 people.
Yeah, 2,800 people. The CEO is stepping down. But okay, here's the thing. I know nothing. This is why, like, I make no pretension to be an expert in the stock market. I'm not. It's not something I could speak with expertise. I think, like most people, I have a very general knowledge on how it works. Right. And I let my app do the rest of my investing. I look at my app every day where I have my investments. I'm like, okay, it's going up. As long as it's not going down, we're good. And if it's going down, I press the button that says change your investments.
And
go conservative.
voila.
And voila. So, hey, Morgan Stanley, you want one of these investment?
Apps.
You want to use us? You want to use
Sponsor
us
us.
as
We know
a
nothing.
sponsor us? We don't. Well, you could be.
We are
but
your
anyway.
prime demographic.
Right. What I always find really interesting about all these companies is that, like, for example, Peloton earlier this year was valued at, like, I don't know if it was 50 billion or 80 billion, and now it's valued at like 5 billion, or a fraction of that. Excuse me. And I just think it's interesting that all these companies that get into, like, this hot water, like, they have this overvaluation of what it is, because I know nothing about the trajectory and history of Peloton, and I think Pelotons are really awesome. This is nothing against the product.
Right.
I think Peloton is really awesome, and I've seen people use it, and I've actually used it in one of their stores, and I think it's an awesome product. But I don't think it takes a genius to realize that the uptick in Peloton was COVID. That people were at home, where people were staying. I mean, and we're not business analysts.
Right. We are most bare bones. Yeah.
We are not business analysts. So I think it doesn't take a genius to figure out that, yes, there was a sudden uptick of Peloton, but that's in part because gyms were closed down.
Right.
So
what
better way? I mean, because if you really think about it, Peloton really is the best way of not going to the gym without going to the gym, because you have the equipment and then you have an interactive class. So it really does bring that element of being in the gym at home.
Well, no, they
like,
had to diversify their classes.
Right. Oh, yeah? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's like, okay, but didn't they see that? Like, didn't they see that was happening? But yeah, no, the CEO, who I think is the founder, has stepped down and all that. Did I tell you the whole thing about me I thought about getting a Peloton?
I think you mentioned it here, yeah.
Yeah, that I went to the Peloton. I was at Merrick Park here in Miami, and they had a Peloton store. And it was like, they were on sale. And it was like, have a Peloton for as little as like $40 a month. And I was like, pero eso está buenísimo. Because it's like, así lo quiero. That's a really high-tech piece of equipment. And, you know, you have it at home. And this was también during the coronavirus. So I go in and I was like, yeah, you know, it's like, I don't know, $40 a month. And no down payment, you know, sé qué. And I'm like, that's awesome. Oh, yeah, but that doesn't include the classes, which is the whole reason for getting a Peloton. And I think between the classes and, like, the extra equipment you had to get, it was, like, another $100. And I'm like, okay, no. I was like, okay, well, no. We'll get the... Vamos a ver el Peloton otro día.
No. You know what? Para eso, you can go with YouFit On Demand for less than $5 a month.
Yes. Exactly.
See?
Exactly. Who doesn't want that?
As you wear, you know, the YouFit Gym's shirt.
Yes. I also think that Peloton was not helped by Mr. Big, and somebody else had an issue with it. On Billions, Daniel Hardman. Yes, the character played. Okay, I call him Daniel Hardman because that was his name on Suits. But what's his name? David Constantine.
David Constantine?
Yes, who's on Billions. I watch Billions, I should know. David...
This is what happens when you watch too many shows with the same people.
David Costable.
Okay.
Yeah, he was on Suits and he's on Billions. On Billions, there was also a scene where he has a heart attack after using Peloton.
Oh, no.
Yeah, but I think that they filmed it without knowing about the Sex and the City one.
Well,
and vice versa.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So it's like, damn.
Not good for stock.
Yeah, not great. But here we are.
But at
the end of the day, you know, you can just get a bike. Dale la vuelta a la manzana.
But Mia, the funny thing is that during the pandemic, I mean, you know this because you couldn't find a bike, but you also couldn't find a Peloton. There was a shortage of both at one point.
Well, but actually, if there was something that came out good of the pandemic is that I did eventually find a bike. Yeah. I bought a bike. I bought a really good bike, and I started biking.
Yes, you did. You were doing like what, 15
miles a day? I
started
cycling. How much?
You were doing like 15 miles every time?
15? No, dude. I was doing 30.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, there and back.
No, I wouldn't do it every day. I would do it on the weekends, but I would do 30. It would take me like 2 hours, but I would do 30 miles. And it's pretty awesome.
That's a de-stressor for sure.
Yeah, totally. I was about to say that. I found that when I was cycling, first of all, I wouldn't have headphones on because you need to hear what's around you.
With headphones off, you almost got hit by a car. So
no, I did get hit by a car.
Well, okay, I was gonna say I almost got run over, but yes.
Yeah, I did get hit by a car, and I shared that here on. But let me tell you when that happened.
And that was without headphones.
It was without headphones. I have this dock on the bike that I just put my phone on there, and I put the radio on so I could hear it. And then it's great because, like, the phone, there's an app that it works like a speedometer. But yeah, that was one of the good things about that. I started cycling, so, you know. So here we are.
You were in shape. You were all fit.
Yes. Sort of. But, you know, actually I don't know if you've seen it online. Maybe our listeners have seen it. And every time I see it, I want to get it. This clothing brand that says kind of fit, kind of fat.
Oh, no, I haven't seen it, but I need it.
Yes, I'm like, oh my God, that's totally us.
That is us.
Kind of fit, kind of fat. I mean, right now, I think I'm more one than the other. But, you know, when I start going to the gym, because, you know, I'm never going to be a skinny person, or do I want to be a skinny person? But I've always been that bulky, beefy type. But I've always felt that it's like, okay, I'm a little bit, you know, la barriga la tengo un poco, you know, there, but my arms look good, right. So I'm kind of fit and kind of fat.
Right. Listen, I always say, and like anybody who's seen my Instagram knows I like to go to the gym. That is my me time. But I always say, if I have a six-pack, great. It's not a goal. Why? Because although everybody loves a six-pack, nobody has ever turned down a keg.
That's a good way of putting it. Well, except for me.
Okay, but in the grand scheme of things, like,
because I don't really drink beer, but you know.
Okay, but if they showed up with a keg of soda, you'd be happy. Happier.
I'm not drinking soda anymore.
Okay, well, you're gonna have to help me out here. Like, just go with the damn analogy.
I have to tell you that. Actually, you know what? Then I'm going to talk about something with our listeners.
Okay.
Because I feel that this is a bit of a PSA. So, and now that I'm on the other side of it, I feel like I could speak about it.
I actually had been meaning to ask you if you wanted to bring it up, but I figured.
So, well, I didn't want to bring it up until I was on the other side of it, but I'm on the other side now. Thank you, God. So I had a bit of a health scare in the last few months. Actually, it was a huge health scare because I sort of lost my mind regarding it.
He did, and he took us all along for that ride.
I did. I took everybody in my life, anybody that knows me, along for that roller coaster ride that didn't end. I've always had an issue with colon-related problems. I don't need to get into specifics, but it's certain things when you're in your 20s, or you're like, I'm in my 20s, so whatever. It's not a big deal. And then in your 30s, it's like, But now, when you hit that milestone of 40, things that weren't that really important, it's like, oh, that little pain I've had here for years, maybe I should check that out.
Right. But then the funny thing is, you've had it for years, so it's not like you'd have been dead by now.
So in other words, I started looking up the symptoms or elements of colon cancer, and I was like, oh my God, I have all of them. I have all of them. Like, and I'm not kidding, listeners. Like, I would call Ishmael in like I'm like, I have colon cancer. I have colon cancer. Like,
and I would always tell him, I'm like, stop looking at WebMD. Stop it, because it's going to drive you insane. Just get the appointment and wait for the appointment.
I knew that I shouldn't look at Google. I knew I shouldn't do it, but
we're human.
Did I listen to everybody's advice except, even doctor's advice? No. I would spend hours looking up stuff about colon cancer, and I would even change the wording so I could get different bits on Google. And there came a moment
just
that
in case they were like hiding the real information from you on the second page?
Yes. Okay. I even went somewhere I had never been before. I went on Reddit.
Oh no. That's worse than Twitter.
Yes. And I was like, I have every symptom of colon cancer. I'm like, this is going to be the end of me. This is how I go. I have a question for you about Reddit. Now, were they even able to make colon cancer racist? Because I feel Reddit is where racism goes to live. Well, no, because what I was reading was colon cancer, so like it was like the worst of the worst that I was reading there. But I even thought about things. I'm like, okay, well, you're gonna have to find a lot of co-hosts when I start,
chemo.
Like these are things that actually was like I became obsessed. And anybody that knows me knows that I'm not a hypochondriac. I'm not somebody that's like gets scared at that type of stuff. But I became like obsessed with that. I had colon cancer, so. And then the peak of it really happened during the holidays. So, I couldn't get an appointment. And, I had gotten an appointment, but the appointment wasn't until, late January. It was like one of those things. So finally, I did go see a GI specialist, and I had an endoscopy and a colonoscopy. And I am not ashamed to say that whatsoever.
You shouldn't be.
And they found several polyps in my colon, and thankfully, actually today, I don't think I had told you, today I actually got the call from the doctor's office that all the biopsies, thank God, were benign. So I'm officially on the other side of it. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because you guys are probably thinking like, why is DJ telling us about his colon cancer, scare? The reason why I'm bringing this up is very important. Colon cancer is the second most diagnosed, the third most diagnosed cancer in the country, and I think it has the third as well highest mortality rates. A lot of people die from colon cancer. The problem with colon cancer, like many cancers, if caught on time, your grandfather?
My grandmother, my dad's mom.
Yeah. The thing with it is that screening in the United States is at 50. That is when you should start your screenings for colon cancer. But they have found that in the Western world especially, people are starting to get colon cancer in their 20s. And like really, really young, because eso era antes de los viejos. Los viejos are the ones that got colon cancer. That's why the screening starts at 50. It would start at 50 as a precaution, because even at 50, it was still young to get colon cancer, because like the average age of getting colon cancer was like in your 70s, right? But now they're recommending for you to start at 45. The Surgeon General, I think, or the American Cancer Society still has it at 50, but doctors are telling you at 45. You know what my doctor told me? Because he found 8 polyps, and 2 of them were very big. He told me, if you would have not done this procedure now, and you would have waited until you're 50, we would have been having a very different conversation.
Of course.
So that, I was actually very relieved, but that scares you, because if I would have gotten my screening at 60, I would have been following the standard.
Right, you wouldn't do anything out of the norm. Right.
So the reason I'm bringing this up to everybody is that if you feel any cramps, if you find blood in your poop, if you just know when there's something off.
Listen to your body.
Listen to your body. Go get a screening. Do not put it off, because this thing of colon cancer, it really is a problem, and a lot of young people are getting colon cancer. And the problem with colon cancer, like many cancers, it's one of these things that if you catch it in stage 1 or 2, it's very treatable. It has a 90% survivor rate, but the problem is that people are asymptomatic for years, and they have the cancer growing. And like, for example, in my case, I had 8 polyps. 2 of them were actually very large. You don't know how long that had been in there.
Right, yeah. It could have been a week. It could have been 10 years.
So imagine if I would have waited another 8 years to get the screening. Like, it would have been however old they are plus 8 years. Right. And then
Forgive my ignorance. Polyps have to be treated, right? They don't just kind of...
No, they're removed.
But but they don't... polyps is not something that, like, you have it and maybe one of them just kind of goes away on its own. No, it has to be removed.
So here's the thing. Not all polyps turn into cancer, but everybody that has cancer has it because of a polyp.
Got it.
Right?
Okay.
So you can be somebody who has polyps your whole life and they don't turn to cancer. But if you get cancer, it was because of a polyp.
Okay.
So they need to be removed. And let me tell you something. Una colonoscopia es un entra y sale. Like, literally, like
I've only had an endoscopy, not a colonoscopy. So.
When I had my procedure done, there was a moment that I'm there and I'm like, when are they going to do this? And the lady's like, you've been in recovery for 45 minutes. And I was like, oh.
So it already happened.
Because when you go under, you kind of lose a sense of... you lose a sense of everything.
Yeah. You have no sense of nothing.
But you don't know. It's not like when you fall asleep that you could know. Like, when you wake up the next day, you could kind of sort of pinpoint when you fell asleep.
Right.
I was watching Jimmy Fallon and I saw up to this guest and then, blank out.
The last thing you remember. Right.
But with anesthesia, it's different. It's like, what?
There is no last thing you remember.
Where did the last 4 hours go? Like, when I was 9 a.m. and now it's like 2 p.m. Like, what happened? Where did I go? Like, what did they do? The day before, you have to be clean as a whistle. You have to... Yeah. That's the worst part about it. The worst part about it is that the day before you're going to be hungry, because nada puedes tomar caldo y tiene que ser caldo, no sopa, caldo, and Jello.
Por lo menos Jello.
But again, the reason, it's like, why are they talking about colonoscopies? But let me tell you, if, listeners, if you feel listen to your body. If you feel something that's off, Because like, for example, rectal bleeding, or bleeding in your stool, that's not normal. If you have that, it's for a reason. And especially if you have it. If you have it over and over again, there's something that's off. It doesn't have to be colon cancer, but there's something that's off. But listen to your body and get a screening. And if you feel that something is off, go to a doctor, because, again, colon cancer is a very real thing, and a lot of people are getting it really young, and you just have to be on top of it. So
this is the learn.
That is my PSA for episode 190,
and it is a fantastic PSA. And listen, at the end of the day, two things. Number one, you came out the other side fantastically, which I knew you would. Because I would tell you all the time. I'm like,
I would get mad at you when you would tell me that. I'm like, how do you know you're not a doctor? Like, shut up.
Well, I mean, what was I going to do? I was going to be like, oh my God, yes, you probably have cancer. Like, what was that going to help? Right? Number one. But again, this wasn't something that you've only, it's not like you've only had it for like 3 weeks. You know what I mean? So I'm of the mind that if something, yes, you should get it checked out. But if something's happening for a while and you are still here, it's probably not something that's killing you per se, right? It could be, but maybe it's not, right? Still get it checked out, and all that. But also, at least you're not Marsha Cross.
What happened to Marsha Cross?
Marsha Cross had anal cancer, and she has now basically, because of the stigma of anal cancer, she has decided that she's going to become the face of anal cancer.
Oh, okay.
So
wow.
Esta pobre mujer tiene que, every time she comes out during cancer month, she's got to talk about ass cancer.
Is she okay?
She's fine, yeah.
Okay. Anal cancer and colon cancer are not the same thing.
I know. I thought they were, but they're not.
Nope, they're not. They're not. Wow. I mean, she has that scarring in her head.
It's true. She has bigger problems. I guess if you survive that, you can survive anything.
What was her name? Sydney?
Kimberly.
Was that her name? Kimberly
Sydney
on
was
Melrose Place. On Melrose Place. So you know that I think this reminds me of you. Moving to other subjects, a lot of times when I'm in my car and I don't know, killing time for whatever reason, I'm stuck in traffic, or maybe if like I'm sometimes having a snack in my car. I have a Tesla, so in the Tesla you have a TV. You have a 16-inch TV, and you have Netflix, Hulu, YouTube, and all that. I start watching scenes of Dynasty.
Ooh, yes.
And they're great because like I think I know everything that's happened in Dynasty just by watching random 2-minute scenes. And I have to tell you that Heather Locklear, I didn't realize what a piece of work her character Sammy Joe.
Oh yes. Sammy
Joe makes Amanda Woodward look like an angel, because Amanda Woodward, she was a bad person.
She was a businesswoman determined to get business things done no matter what cost. That's... But
I don't think she would kill a puppy.
Right. She just wouldn't have one.
Right. But Sammy Joe, who was the character that was like her breakout role, right?
She, at that time, she was actually on 2 shows. She was doing Dynasty and TJ Hooker at the same time.
Oh, yes, TJ Hooker. Who could forget TJ Hooker? That's a cop show, right?
Yep, with William Shatner.
Right, but on that show, she was a piece of work. It's like going, no. No, she was just like, she made Linda Collins like scared. Like she made Alexis Carrington.
Joan Collins. You just blended the two.
Joan Collins.
You said Linda Collins.
What did I say? Linda Collins.
Okay, wait.
Linda Evans.
Wait,
Joan
do you picture Joan Collins' face with Linda Evans' hair, or the other way around?
I don't know what I pictured. You know that I'm surprised that the character of Alexis Carrington on Dynasty, I'm surprised that she is not recognized more, like seriously speaking, the character as like a feminist or like.
Okay,
because
I get it.
She had some cojones. Like she I mean, and a lot of her like best like rants were like, I am a woman that gets what I want, and I will not be. No man is gonna tell me what to do. It was very, if you think about it, ahead of its time. So yeah, Linda Collins. Linda Collins.
You think when you said it, I was like, wait a minute. I'm like, that's not a person.
So, are you watching the Olympics? Listeners, are you watching the Olympics?
I don't think anybody is. The viewership is down.
Well, the viewership was definitely down in the opening ceremony.
Yeah.
Like really, really down. I think a lot of it has to do with like China.
Just being China.
People are like
China being China.
People are upset that it was in China. In the opening ceremony, the Chinese president sort of gave a finger to the Americans and a lot of the diplomats that boycotted the Olympics because one of the torchbearers who eventually. Well, I don't want to say they lit the cauldron because they did something different. There wasn't a cauldron. There was like the torch put in a snowflake, whatever. It was anticlimactic. That doesn't
seem very smart. I mean, it's going to melt.
Well, it wasn't a real snowflake. Oh. The final torchbearer, one of them, was from the region of China that the alleged, well, it's not alleged, it's known.
Wuhan?
The concentration camps are going on.
Oh,
yeah.
Sorry.
He's from there.
Wuhan is where
the COVID was.
Yeah.
No, it's the area where the concentration camps are at. And he is from there, and he's from one of the tribes from there. And it was kind of seen as like a diplomatic finger to like the people boycotting China
for human rights,
because it's like, look, we put this person there, we're not going to be nagged to. But I was, as I said, I think last week, I was against China hosting the Olympics in 2008, and everybody at that time, was like melting and like, oh my god, this is like the greatest opening ceremony ever. Se la comieron. And I'm like, yeah. And do you know, like, the press? Because what's really frustrating about the Olympics being in China again, and just to say, this is nothing against the Chinese people or Chinese culture.
Well, it's the Chinese government is what
we're talking about. The Chinese government. In 2008. When the Olympics painted this like beautiful landscape that was going to be the Olympics in Beijing, and it was beautiful because the stadium, the Bird's Nest, is one of the most just beautiful architecturally stadiums out there. The media, the international media comes to the Olympics, to every Olympics. The media was majorly censored. They couldn't write what they want. They had very limited access to Google and YouTube. It was all Google, YouTube, all that was censored by the government. Mm-hmm. A lot of reporters got in trouble. A lot of reporters had their equipment taken away. There was a huge, huge, huge issue with the press, right? Aside from, and in addition to, all the human rights violations
that
and
occur
everything that has happened. That occur every day and occurred during the Olympics. And yet, here we are. Let's give them another Olympics, right? And,
it's almost like the IOC is corrupt.
You think? And it hurts me because I love the Olympics. I love everything the Olympics stands for in terms of athleticism. I love watching the opening ceremonies. I love it. But, I think it's just a total form of hypocrisy. I mean, they want to stay apolitical, and I understand that an organization like that has to stay apolitical. I get it. But, I think they're... To a degree, because I think that genocide and concentration camps is like, that's not up for discussion.
We're going to call that the line.
Yes. That's not up for discussion. That's not us being like, well,
but wait.
Yeah.
You know more about the history than I do. Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't they have it in Germany during the height of...
They had them in Berlin in 1936. And in Berlin 1936, that was sort of the height. I don't know if the height is the right word, but Nazis were in full propaganda. Well, it was the Nazi games,
Right.
When you see pictures of the 1936 Olympics, you don't see the flags of the Olympic rings everywhere. You see the Nazis,
Right.
the swastika. So it was the Nazis in full regalia during those games. But Hitler used the 1936 Olympics as a way of showing the superiority, I could never say the word, of the
Aryan race.
Aryan race. Why can I never say Aryan race? Like, I can't say the word.
Because it's stupid. Nobody should say it.
He wanted to use those Olympics as and this is the learned part of the show.
Well, who's the second one?
The Aryan race, and he wasn't able to do that because the one who stole the show was Jesse Owens.
Damn right.
Who was a runner, American runner, and who was black, and he was the
Phenomenal.
rock star of those Olympics, and he won his events, and that's what everybody was talking about. And, that got Hitler mad. So...
And we all know Hitler was not happy to begin with, so...
No. So yeah, I mean, look, that's a good example because by 1936, people knew what the Nazis were doing.
Right.
So it's not like, oh, wait, you're not the monks from Tibet that wanted peace. You're really doing this? No, it's like people knew who the Nazis were by 1936. So whatever, it's excuse me, it's hypocrisy at its highest level, and it's very frustrating because at the end of the day, any Olympic Games is about the athletes and the dedication
together,
to get there. And we've had an Olympian on the show.
This is true. We have.
Daniel Leyva.
One of my favorite people. I gotta say. I mean, it's like
he
you were at
is
the Olympics, and you were just so like cool, and we just
he
hung
is,
out and drank together.
and I got to fulfill a fantasy of wearing an Olympic medal.
Listen, that was a hell of a trip.
Yes,
Full house and an Olympic medal.
Yes.
Happy birthday to you.
Yeah, happy birthday to me. Yes, we went to the Santa Fuller house, and I got to wear an Olympic medal. Yeah, I mean, what's gonna top that?
Well, it's not your birthday, but something that's happening this week.
Well, I know what could top that.
Okay, what you're thinking probably involves Mariah, and I don't have the powers to make that happen yet.
Yeah, no, not yet.
Not yet. I'm working on it.
Well, you listen. I know an angle we could get Mariah on the show.
What's the angle?
The angle is, most of our guests, or all of the guests, have been of, Hispanic,
Descent.
Latin angle. Remember that Mariah Carey's father is Venezuelan.
This is true.
So
she qualifies.
Yeah, and she dated Louis Miguel for years. So that,
That's true. That has to count for something.
That has to count for something because it's like, you just didn't date a Spanish singer. You dated Louis Miguel.
Yeah.
Who, again, to quote you earlier, is an icon.
Iconic. That's an icon.
Yes. Louis Miguel. I mean...
Oh my God, when people, like, something happens like 10 minutes ago and people are like, that's iconic. I'm like, no, that just happened.
What would be an example of that?
Anytime there's like an award show and one of like and of course I'm going the route of like, gay Twitter or whatever, where it's like, one of these divas does a performance and they'll just be like, that's an iconic performance. And it's like, no, we have to be removed from it more than 3 seconds before it's an iconic anything.
I still don't think Lady Gaga coming at the Grammys in an egg was iconic. I think it was
memorable.
I think it was just Lady Gaga being Lady Gaga. Entró un huevo.
It was a Tuesday for her.
Entró un huevo.
Mira, Bjork's Swan dress, that's iconic. Because it's never been done before or since.
But I think...
Even by Bjork standards.
We're talking about iconic. But wouldn't you say, though, that things that become iconic are not necessarily... planned to be iconic?
No, exactly.
The reason I say that is because Bjork's swan dress, I don't think Bjork thought that swan dress was going to have the life it did.
That was Bjork just being like, I wear swan to Academy Awards.
And I think that was probably her, knowing that she was going to land on the worst dress list,
And so embrace it.
And Melissa and Joan Rivers were going to, rip her one. And here we are. So I don't think that iconic things necessarily start out being iconic.
Well, they shouldn't. That's what makes them iconic. Because things that become iconic are not necessarily planned.
Right.
I mean, they can be, but not necessarily. It's things that take on a life of their own.
Right. Right. I agree with you.
Okay. I'm glad you agree with me.
Hey, listeners, we're doing the best we can with what we got, and we're doing this recording via Skype. Damn coronavirus.
I know. And you probably still have a fever of like 101 or something.
I do. What is it? Feel the fever.
Aw, Kylie.
Speaking of Kylie, today I was speaking to my cousin, and my cousin's daughter's name is Kylie.
That's right.
And I was speaking to her, and until this day, when she first referenced it, whenever I talk to her, whenever she talks about her daughter and she says Kylie for the first time, I think of Minogue. I still don't even think it's her daughter.
The girl's been alive for like 13 years.
Yeah, and it's funny because by saying Minogue, that also ages us, because a younger generation would not think Minogue, would think Jenner.
Yeah, but that generation's wrong.
They are.
They're wrong. Sorry.
They are. And if you want to be proven right, watch the video. What is the video trajectory of Kylie Minogue videos?
Yes.
I'm telling you, listeners, even if you're not a fan of hers, even if you don't know who she is, or you know just a few songs of hers, she has a music video trajectory that is unlike any other. Because the thing with her is that she started off doing like really low budget, cheap videos in the 80s, and then she sort of like evolved. And like, then her videos became very
fashionista and all
and her videos became very high concept and very, what they ended up being. And it's just this like really coming. No, nobody saw that coming. Will you say that's iconic?
That trajectory is iconic. Yes, I would have to say. Yes, I would have to say it's an iconic trajectory.
That it's like, oh wow, like hey, Kylie Minogue did a video and she's like in a bathtub with, in a studio, and the walls around her, you could tell she were just painted because they had no budget. It's like, and then now she's doing a video of I don't know, swimming in chocolate, whatever.
Yeah, but even when her budget got bigger, she still had to share a set.
Yeah,
would take that.
Oh yes. Listen, that's too. They're not gonna get that.
It's okay for the four of you that did. You're welcome.
Yeah. I don't even think 4 people would get that reference. Listeners, it's this reference, if you know the band Take That they had this video of a song called, I think it's called Everything Changes. And it's like the sepia tone video that's like, I don't know, it's from like either 1990 or 91. And Kylie Minogue has a video called Give Me Just a Little More Time. That was, I don't know which one came first, but they were released within a year of each other. The video is her in a cafe, and the video sepia tone. And I remember thinking, like, these 2 videos look just alike, and they were shot at the same cafe. But the thing is that they're both sepia tone, so it pretty much looks like the same video.
Sepia tone will make everything look similar.
Yeah, and it makes everything look interesting.
It does. We need to bring it back.
Yeah, you can go to like the supermarket and just go buy mangoes and avocados and film it in sepia tones and put the black bar on the top and the bottom, to make it widescreen.
Do you think we could do an IG live in sepia tones?
I mean, we could try.
Let's figure it out. That's our new challenge.
So anyway, is it soda time?
It could be soda time. Yes.
Okay, because I know my last soda today.
This year? Wow. How long have we been talking? Go for it.
So I'm going to give my last soda to somebody who we've had on the show before, and we don't always agree with him, but we like him because he says a lot of times things as they are, and we're a big fan of his documentaries. But I'm going to give my last soda this week to Billy Corbin. Billy Corbin is very, very outspoken about all things Miami and South Florida, and he is definitely a very loud voice within the community, but I think a voice that is very much needed. And I think that he calls out and brings attention to things that otherwise, well, definitely the mainstream media would not bring about. And earlier this week, he tweeted something that says,
we reposted.
You know, within a few years, we posted it on our Instagram, and it kind of went sort of like, in a few years, there will be no Haitians left in Little Haiti. There will be no Cubans left in Little Havana. There will be no Bahamians left in Little Bahamas. And basically, the people who built and made Miami flourished and bring all its culture will be priced out of Miami and will not be able to be part of that. And that tweet got reposted. I mean, it went viral, if you could say. But I think that tweet pretty much perfectly encapsulates what's going on with the housing crisis here in Miami. And I know that this has happened in other parts of the country, but, you know, and I'm sure that in other parts when it's happened, it's been as devastating. But in our case, it's happening now. So there's still a chance to reverse it or slow it down if we do what we need to do and bring this to the forefront of policy and of issues that we have to deal with now in South Florida, in Miami in specific. Because the way that home prices are going now, most people that live here now will not be able to live here, will not be able to afford it. And that is a really big problem that I often say. People tell me all the time, like, oh, you should run for office. I would never run for office. But if I were to run for office and I'd held elective office or an elected position, housing affordability would be number one in my platform and number one in my agenda above everything else. You know, and even though I believe in climate change, and I know that climate change is something I would tackle on head on, affordability or public housing and affordability would be number one in my agenda, because it has to be. And I don't think people are doing enough here, and we're giving developers all this power to build and do whatever the hell they want, and, you know, for money. And look, I'm not anti-building. I lived in downtown in a high-rise. I mean, I'm a product of that, and that was my dream. My dream was to live in a high-rise downtown overlooking the bay. And I was able to do that. So it's not that I'm against that. I'm not against building, and I'm not against progress, if you will. But there has to be a balance. There has to be a checked balance. That if you're going to build, you know, 40 luxury high-rises, that a one-bedroom apartment starts at $500,000, and not anymore, like $600,000-$700,000, then you also need to have, you know, the same amount of investment in public housing and in apartments that people can afford to live in. Affordable housing, whatever that may look like. And right now, there isn't a priority to do that. There isn't any priority to do that. So my Coke goes to, my soda goes to Billy Corbin for, you know, it is, you know, he has a very big base and a very big platform, bringing attention to that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, yeah. I mean, you hit all the nails on the head that are then used to build very expensive residences.
Yeah.
So
for the tech bros, the Bitcoin bro.
Oh, the Bitcoin. Don't even get me started. It's funny you say the Bitcoin bros, because I was actually going to give my last soda. I was going to give a flat soda actually to Mayor Suarez, but I changed my mind at the last minute because of something that I just saw on Instagram. So I know a couple episodes back, and I don't know if this is a soda, a flat soda, or if it's just raise awareness. A few episodes back, I brought up that one of the creators of the show Riverdale, Roberto Aguirre Sacarza,
yes,
his father had been imprisoned in Nicaragua as a political prisoner. The guy's like 70 years old. Because he's a journalist, he was imprisoned. And, you know, for those of you who've followed even remotely, you know, Nicaragua had their elections last year. I used elections with the biggest of air quotes because it was... I mean, it was a farce.
Not an election. It was just a formality.
It was a formality. I mean, it was a farce. Well, Roberto just posted an update that his 70-something-year-old father was just convicted of treason, which he is not guilty of because he's a journalist. So I mean, I guess if you're a journalist who writes things that are in opposition to a dictatorship, essentially, well then yes, I guess that's treason in a sort. And he has been, I think, he's going to be brought up later this week, but he's looking at facing at like 8 years in prison. And I just wanted to bring it up because I think that's something that, we tend to lose sight of sometimes. Being Miami guys, obviously we know about what's going on in Cuba. We keep very abreast of that, but we can't lose sight of the fact that these things are happening across Central and South America every day. These governments just kind of show up and do whatever they want. And, to kind of trickle that in, we've always got to be vigilant. You can't just, oh, well, that doesn't happen here. Oh, that doesn't happen here.
Wow.
Right. But that's
prior to January 6, 2021, a lot of people would have said, oh, that doesn't happen here. And yet here we are.
So, I do hope at the very least that, that Roberto, and I would love to have Roberto on the show. I mean, I've tried to get him, but it just hasn't happened. But one of the options that they have is I think it's you're over 70 in Nicaragua, you can live out your sentence as a home arrest, and
right.
So they're hoping at the worst case scenario, best case scenario, fine, he just gets to go home. But I know it's said way too often, but honestly, my thoughts and prayers are with him and his family because this gentleman, his father, has been in prison for, I believe, if not exactly, approximately 200 days.
Wow. Right. And over there, forget due process.
Exactly.
What is due process?
Es que no me explico,
right.
But those are the things that, then when you have people, like, oh, socialism is great and communism and, all that bullshit. It's like, no, you guys, like, you don't romanticize this shit.
I've said that here on the show many times. Actually, it was one of the things that I said in our video that went viral last year regarding the Cuban protests. There's a lot of forms of privilege. Privilege is just not white, being white and having privilege over,
minority
people of color. There's a lot of different types of privileges. Obviously, the white privilege is the one we hear about the most and the most prevalent one, but there's a lot of different types of privileges. And what I always find very interesting is that all these people that talk about how wonderful socialism is, and again, that's not to say that, me specifically in terms of like my values or what I think. I'm not against social programs. I'm not against certain, welfare and things like that. Quite the contrary. I'm very for that. I'm for socialized medicine. I'm for all those things. But there's a difference between that and, a full-blown socialism, or these people that are totally anti-capitalist and they're all about socialism and communism and all this stuff. And it's like, right, because you are saying that from a point of privilege. ¿Por qué? Porque you have grown up at least middle class your entire life, and you have your fun, fancy little gadgets, your iPhone and your MacBook Pro, and, I was going to say the iPod.
Those are the lesser ones, the iPod.
Right. You have all these, creature comforts, and here you are telling people, talking about how terrible capitalism is and how, socialism and even communism, is so great. And it's like, really, that is the ultimate form of, like, that is a form of privilege, that you think this and you're not taking in consideration not only the reality, but the lived experience of millions of people that are telling you, hey, this is what the reality is, and this is what you go through, and this is what we went through. You're like, no. No. Che Guevara was a hero. He fought for the common man, anti-establishment. It's like, give me a break, Sean. Sean from Connecticut.
Sean with your silent X in your name.
Oh, it's like, really? No. Like, No. So and what you were saying is very important, because these are all the things that happen every day in a lot of these Latin American countries that don't make the news here and nobody knows about, or only pockets of people know about. Pero esas son las cosas que la gente no hablan.
Yeah.
But then, they'll go around and say, oh, Daniel Ortega and the Sandinistas are a party of their people who want to, give, people that don't have money and farmers and, common folk, power and money. It's like, yeah, they do have and not that those people shouldn't have those things, but, does that also mean that you're giving away every single right that you have as a human being?
Be a balance.
Yes, so, yeah. So anyway, well, everybody, that was episode 190. Listen, we tell you listeners, we give you a show every week through thick and thin.
Ain't no COVID gonna stop us.
When the coronavirus happened, Hollywood shut down, but let me tell you, did not.
We did not.
And even when we got the coronavirus, we ain't shutting the show down.
Yeah, whatever. Hugh Jackman gets coronavirus. Oh, the Music Man closes down on Broadway. Darian gets coronavirus. We keep going.
We keep going. So, anyway, well, we hope everybody listened, laughed, and learned. And remember to grab your pastelito, your croqueta, and your cafecito. And thank you for joining us, everybody.
All right, cuídense, mi gente.
Hopefully next week we'll be back in person.
Yes, hopefully you'll test negative.
Yes. So, have a great weekend, everyone.
Cuídense.
Bye.
Bye. Pero Let Me Tell You is co-hosted by Darian Borges and Ismaeliano, produced by Ismaeliano, and our theme, Pero Let Me Tell You Freestyle, is composed by Michael Angelo Lomlaplex, the official gay guy. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes.